Cool, so we're back for part 2 of the TombStone tutorial. Still a few more details to add, plus I want to add the ivy growing up the side of it as well. Then we're going to try and get it back into Maya for some retopology ready to bake in Substance Painter. So to start with, I'm going to start to add this trim that runs around here with the little points on the end. I'm going to do that by using the existing poly groups. So if I turn on my poly F, hotkey for that I believe is Shift F. So if you don't want to go over there to press that button, you can always press Shift F to turn that on and off again. So Shift F, hold down Control and Shift and just click on the purple area, and then we'll isolate that part of the view. So what I want to do is just kind of draw a mask in this area so we can use the extract to bring out another piece of mesh. So I'll just get rid of the poly F, hold down Control, and I've got a rectangle mask on, so I can just draw a rectangle along the border. Actually, it might be easier to work from the inside out, so hold down Control, click on where the rectangle is, and change that for a circle. And then we're just going to draw a circle. So you can see I've still got my symmetry on, so by pressing X, I've turned on symmetry in active symmetry in X. And I'm going to hold down Control, and when these 2 points meet, I know I'm in the middle. Well, it doesn't really matter because I'm just going to hold down space to move this around. So I just draw out a circle, hold down the space bar as well, and that's going to move it around. So I've still got Control held down. I'll taper the circle a little bit, so something probably a little bit lower. With that, then do another one, hold down space again. A bit closer, like that, and one more. No, I might have that a little wider, so just press Control Z. Okay, I can draw a big circle in the middle. Well, I might just change that to from a circle, so holding down Control, to a rectangle, and draw another rectangle over here. I kind of want to keep a straight edge down there, so let's go like that. Cool. Then I want to kind of invert that mask, so if I hold down Control and click in the empty space, that will just invert the mask. Then I want to extract it, so go to your subtool. Actually, it looks a little bit like it cuts in down here as well. No, maybe not. No, let's just extract this mesh as it is. So go to extract and hit that button. That looks probably a little bit deep, so if I rotate it, you see it disappears. I have to hit accept for it to actually stay, so I hit extract again. And you see I rotate it and it goes. If I change the thickness to 0.03, then press extract. Actually, 0.01. That'll be fine, only want a little short lip on it, so then just hit accept. You'll see it goes a little bit dark now, but if I hold down Control and draw over here, it'll just get rid of the mask that was made. Yeah, and that's fine. Let's bring everything else back, so hold down Control Shift. Well, actually, you need to click on Grave Part 1, and then hold Control and Shift and click in an empty space, and it'll bring back the rest of the stone. So this is a new mesh over here because we extracted it, and that's fine. I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and we're going to start to merge all these elements together. So I probably no longer need this text anymore, so I'm just going to merge this bit down. So merge down, and probably delete this text from here. So delete. Cool. So now it's got the grave, and all of this is one mesh. So now I'm going to try and smooth some of these So now we're going to try and smooth some of the edges because they're quite crisp for the reference we've got here. And to do that, I can go to my deformation tab down here, and in here we have like a polish or relax. Relax will kind of move edges away. You can polish crisp edges. I'll just show you what a polish would do, just to drag that along to 21. You can see it's just kind of smoothed out all of the edges. It feels a little bit machine-like there, but some of the other ones like relax might be similar, I guess. Not quite so much of an emboss. Polish by groups. We do have poly groups still. Polished by crisp edges. And I've done quite a nice job. Just got rid of the harsh lines that are on there. So before I do any kind of polishing of the model, I'd quite like to be able to paint back to this state. And you can do that by using a morph target. So if I go to our morph target tab, which is around here somewhere, there we are, morph target. You can see I've still got a morph target from the previous session. I'm just going to delete the old morph target and grab a new store morph target, and this will be the new way that it paints back to with the morph brush. And from this point, I'm then going to start to relax some bits. So I'll go to deformation, I'll go to relax, probably drag that up to 29, 30, something like that, and that's kind of smoothed out the edges. I might polish it as well, so by 20. That's really softened it. If that's okay, I can then go to my morph brush. So M, morph. I might change the way this brush behaves, so change the stroke to a drag rect, change the alpha to maybe alpha 8, that'll be fine, and then when I draw, I might turn off the symmetry, X, up the intensity a bit. Then you can see it's drawing back some of the stronger lines. It just kind of breaks up some of the very clean edge that I've got. But it leaves some bits a little bit soft, and other bits a bit chipped, I guess. Got a bit more subtle, but that's close enough. I think the next thing to do is start adding some rock damage to our stone. So for that, I'm going to start by just kind of using the clip curve and cutting away at the mesh. So to use the clip curve brush, you just hold down Control, Shift, click on the top brush, and then we've got clip curve here. I'm going to click on there. Now we used it to chop away these parts. I'm going to use it at kind of an angle just to hack away at the mesh a little bit. So if I draw from here and then let go, so I had Control Shift held down and start to draw. If I tap on the Alt key, it will place a point, so I can start to kind of leave little points in here and make it kind of a wave across it. So you can see I've got kind of a curvy line, and then if I let go there, you can see what it did. It just kind of did some very clean looking cuts into the top of the mesh. So I'm kind of coming away from the reference a little bit now, just adding some kind of more stylized cuts to the model. But I don't know, it looks kind of interesting, and I don't mind getting away from realistic. I tend to always base my work on a bit of clear reference, and that way you've got a good guide, but nothing to stop you making things want to feel like a art style that you've chosen. Cool, so I'm just making lots of little cuts by tapping the Alt key and just leaving lots of different points. If I was to do a double click with the Alt key, I'd do a very straight cut like that, like a right angle, but I don't really want to do that. I just want to show you that that function was available. Some of them are very small little chinks that I'm doing, just catching it slightly. That one's a bit too heavy. I don't want to destroy the shape, but I want to get the opposite side as well. there's lots of different brushes we can use and lots of different functions we can use to do rock damage. I just tend to do lots of different types of operations. That's what happens if you get the curve going the wrong way down the mesh or something like that. You're going to end up cutting it into a mess. So do be careful with this clip curve brush. It doesn't really like doing massive cuts. It can sometimes smear the mesh a little bit and squash, like compress faces together. That can be difficult sometimes to get out, so be careful whilst using the clip curve over doing big cuts or at strange angles, I guess. Cool. That'll do for it with that brush. I might switch over to a fast mallet. Fast mallet can't be found inside of here. It's in the light box, and if you go to brush and mallet, there should be a mallet around here. There we are. And fast mallet. This brush is pretty good for just kind of beating up the mesh with quite aggressive strokes. So you're going to see me just kind of going over the surface and knocking away the corners. I want it to feel a bit old, so maybe start with a bigger brush and work my way down. Don't mind going through the pattern a bit. I feel like quite a lot of damage has happened. I don't worry too much about brush stroke marks as well at this point, because we can keep building on top of the damage anyway. The trick with doing damage is not to get too carried away, really, so you can't read what's going on anymore, but just to give it a bit of subtle damage, really. So I'm not spending too much time on any one area at the moment, just trying to get enough variation on here. It's going to go into Substance Painter at some point where you're going to want to do most of your surface noise. It's just getting the broad shapes done. Cool. Another good brush to use would be the Trim Dynamic. So I'll just click on my brush and press T, and it's hidden behind me. Reference, there it is, Trim Dynamic. And to use that, it's got a bit more of a cleaner, polished edge, but that'd be a nice mix. It's going to feel a little dented, so it's mostly for the corners, just to stop this feeling like such a new shape. Look, it's really beaten up. If I see any tears in the mesh or anything like that, I might use hold down shift and soften it out a little bit, and then that will fix any weird little glitches. Sometimes you might have to work at it with the shift button for a little while, but usually you get there. I'm being really light with this brush because I don't really want to damage the flat surface, mostly just the corners, like I said. So Adjust the size a little bit. So I'm going to probably bring some of this back. I might have got a bit carried away in some points. So I'm just going to grab my morph brush, so M, and then I can just paint back some of these areas. And I've still got that alpha assigned to my morph brush, so I can give it a little bit of noise, which will cover up some of the little brush marks. If I make quite small ones, they tend to look like the withering of stone a little bit. So move a few of these around. Could change that alpha to something else. What else we got? Some little cracks. Maybe not cracks. Might just use a normal soft alpha and not have so much damage there. Might change the brush stroke type back to dots, and then I can paint some back. Maybe an even softer alpha 01. Drop the intensity. And start to paint some of this back again. You might find some of a square edge, alpha 28, and then give me a bit more of a chiseled bit back. Just pushing away any of the brush stroke marks that were on there, adding a bit of the variation to the damage. I might go back to my fast mallet again and do another pass. So what can take a little bit of time because you want to keep working interesting shapes into it, so I don't mind going over it a few times. I'd rather get there slowly, knowing that I've got that morph target. I can always go back a bit if I feel I've overdone it. Another brush that does some quite nice damage would be a Damien standard or a Dam standard. So if I go to my brushes and press D, you'll see this Dam standard brush. I can change the size, and what it does is it will just cut into the mesh like this. But if I go a little bit thinner, I can do some quite fine cuts as if it's just been slashed away. Can up the intensity a little bit, and these will all kind of come up in the normal map at the end. So nothing too strong, just some little fine cracks in there. And do a few to the side. Might just grab that mallet again. Really damaged quite a lot of that corner. Cool. Chew it all up there. Right. Okay, so some other ways we can add some more surface damage is to use a function called surface over here and noise. And what that's done, we can either it kind of adds exactly what it says really, a surface noise. We can add patterns over the top, but for this one the rock noise is quite good. So to center things, you obviously recenter. You've got a zoom. If I hold down drag on it, I can get close up, and this is what it's doing by default, so kind of an all over surface noise. I can adjust the noise scale and do like a big rock noise. Let me zoom out a little bit. You kind of have to use these buttons in this window, so be aware of that. And so you get quite big and pretty small, so this is really useful for doing lots of rocks, and you can kind of mask bits away as well, so that's pretty useful. I'll do kind of a fine noise, I guess, something like that. The strength I can obviously adjust, so I can either make it go away or come back quite strong. I'll probably something like that where I've got a good all over surface noise. You can play around with the curvature to get it to affect parts and not others, but I'm just going to press OK on that. And as I was kind of saying, if I mask areas, it will go away, so it's not actually applied to the mesh. I have to hit apply to mesh in the surface tab for actually to affect our mesh. So if I hold down a mask, so control, and just put a mask anywhere, it's no longer affecting that area. If I go to masking and say view mask, turn that off, you can see that that bit isn't being affected by the noise. So essentially if I keep drawing more masks, so I'll change my mask type to a drag rect, pick, I don't know, the alpha 08, and then keep drawing on here. It's going to kind of take some of this away, like the surface noise. Also, other ways to mask an object would be to use some of the geometry. So under my masking tab, if I go to mask peaks and valleys and click on that, it kind of masks inside where it thinks the peaks and valleys are. It's done kind of a strange one there. We can mask by smoothness. So that one's really caught the cavity, so that's quite good. If I was to invert that, so hold down control and press invert, you'll still have all this noise kind of in the crevices of the model. So zoom in a bit and see what that looks like. I quite like it. I'm just going to reduce it a little bit though, so go back to my surface, go to edit, and I can carry on editing this before I've actually applied it. I'll zoom right in and play around with the noise strength a little bit, make it a bit lower. That's okay, just a subtle noise inside the text and on the edges. So I'll press OK and then apply to mesh. It'll probably lose some of it because it's only 1.2 million polygons, and I'm only saying 1.2 million, but that's, you could go up to about 10 million with this model really and get some really nice surface detail because it's only doing it based on the vertices. But now it's applied, and I'll get rid of that. I've got like a subtle noise inside there again. I can make it a little bit stronger, I think, so let's apply it again. It will remember the last sentence I had, so just apply to mesh. And then now you can start to see it coming through on the edges, which looks quite interesting. I might add another noise, and this time do one that just goes to the whole surface, so a much finer noise, something like this. And hit OK, and then apply that to the mesh. You can see it almost completely disappears. But if I press Ctrl D, so we go up one more subdivision level, so 4,800,000, and I turn on that noise again, I might once again do the masking, so mask by smoothness. It'll take a little longer to figure it out now because it's a few more polygons. I'll invert that, and then once again go to my surface, edit that. I might bring up the strength a bit more this time. Hit OK. Hit apply to mesh. There's another layer of fine noise, and then I'll probably add another noise to finish it. And bring the strength of that one down. Cool, and apply that to the mesh. Okay, so that's got a bit of surface detail on it now. I did tend to try and look at my model in some different matte caps, so some different materials, because they can sometimes give away brush marks, sort of mistakes that maybe you didn't notice before. So if I click on where the matte cap is, this red ball, and change it to basic material, that'll give me a different view. And sometimes I prefer to use the basic material. I think it looks a little better for sculpting. Or any of these top ones. The difference between the top ones and the bottom ones is these ones can be more affected by light, really. So these are kind of ones that are adjustable inside of Zbrush, where these are kind of pre-built. But you can download them from Zbrush Central. They have tons and tons of these different types of materials. The Framer ones are pretty good. The Framer 4 or Framer 1. They can really show off some of the cavities inside your model. See, I've got some quite heavy brush strokes here, so I might just paint over the top of them. It's quite nice to be doing some fresh damage. Now we're up another division level because obviously I'm getting a crisper finish. So it might be worth doing a bit more sculpting of fine detail, but I kind of want to move on to the next bit, which is going to be adding the ivy. So I'm going to go back to I might just work in the, we'll keep it on the matte cap red for now. So to add the ivy to this model, I'm just going to save my progress. So go to Tools, Save As, call this Part 2. So I save things generally as Z-tools. They tend not to save any of the history or anything else, but which makes them a slightly lighter file, I guess. But I know I can import them from here as well. So or load tool, save tool. Anyways, adding the curve. So we want to add this ivy going along the side here. So the best way to do that would be to use a insert curve brush. So if you go to your brush, we've got curve tubes, which will allow you to draw curves all over the place, and curve tube snap, which will snap a tube to our object. So with that selected, if I just draw from the bottom corner and roughly the line that the ivy takes, so across here, and then let go, it says delete or freeze subdivision levels. So it doesn't really work if you've got subdivision levels. So what I'm going to do is get rid of my subdivision levels. Geometry. I can just delete the lower ones, so del lower, and I didn't need those levels anyway. And now if I just tap on that curve again, and wait a second, it's going to draw the curve. So it's drawn a curve at a size of 32. If I made it bigger, it would draw a bigger curve. If I make it much smaller, it'll obviously draw a smaller curve. We kind of want to get some tapering down our curve to make it a bit more like ivy. So if you go to our stroke menu and just click on the radial button, and that will drop it on the side. We have down here we have a few different things down here. We have a curve option, which allows us to lock the end. So let's say I can drag this around the place like this. You'll see the ends move about, which is nice to be able to drag it around because you can get a new shape. But you don't always want to move the end. So maybe lock start, and let's move the end a little bit over here, and lock end. and then I can move these parts around and it won't affect any of the ends. Cool, so let's get that tapering on there. I can go to curve modifiers and change it from intensity to size. Just to have size on. Click the curve fall off, and what this will do is if I can drag the points around, so I'll drag that one to the bottom and create a new one and pull that to the top, this just kind of changes the profile of our curve. So if I click on there now, you'll see that it gets thinner and fatter. So if I use a bigger brush, that would be more obvious. So if I click here, you can see it gets fat in the middle and gets thin at the end, because this profile gets fat in the middle and thin at the end. But what I want is a curve that goes about here, comes down around here, so it maintains its thickness for a while, but then tapers down to nothing. So if I click on the end, you can see it does that. Stick here, gets thin here. If I bring that draw size down, it's about 16. That's probably a bit thin. 42, a bit thinner than that. 18. 18 is good. So draw a line like that. I might have it stay fat a little bit longer. Get that to fall off a bit later. Cool, something like that. I can continue this curve a little further if I want to go around the model. And to do that, if I just hover at the end, you'll see this little red line appears. Whenever this red line appears, it means I can draw a little further. So around there, you'll see that's continued that line. I can draw it. Oh, I think I missed it that time. But I could draw from there. And I could continue it all the way around the back of here. Something like that, quite a long line. It kind of intersects a little bit, and I can either try and fix that now by pulling it across, but I could always fix it after with just the move brush and pushing it back out of the mesh, which I'll probably still pull it around with the move brush anyway. Oops, don't want to do that. But there you go, you've got kind of our first vine coming off. So we can draw a bunch more of these. I'll just start drawing another one over here. And then another one down here. So I'm kind of mimicking my reference a bit, but I'll probably add more than what I saw in there. I can always play around with the size of the brush if I want to obviously have thinner vines or thicker vines. I might continue that one a bit further. I can draw some that grow off of these ones, so slightly smaller brush. If you completely miss the bottom, maybe just try and shift it back over, but again, it's something we can fix after we finish drawing out the vines. Oops. So we're going to be adding the ivy leaves as well, so we won't be seeing all of these vines, so it's best to have more than you want, just so you can expose some of them. And remember to do this side as well, because we'll be showing this one off in our game because it will give us a bit of extra variation. We do want to try and keep all our vines on the surface of the object, because when it comes to baking a texture from this, it's going to be much easier if we don't have to try and draw around vines, and we can just make a low poly version of the shape of the tombstone and not have to worry about a low poly version of these vines, because they'll be close enough to the surface to be done with a texture like a normal man. A couple at the top here as well. I'm start using some very small ones. Okay, a little bit bigger than 3. 8. So it really doesn't matter how many of these we use, because, like I said, they're all going to be as part of a texture, so they're not going to add to my memory cost. So I may as well add as many as I feel I like. Starting to get a good volume of veins on there now. We can merge them all together a little bit and make them feel a bit more realistic. Maybe add some surface noise to these as well. Maybe. Okay, I think that'll do for the amount of vines on there. Now I want to split the ivy from this mesh. So whilst we've been making this, we've been sort of creating polygroups as we go. You can see that the ivy is all individual polygroups as well. So what I want to do is kind of hide all the tomb and leave all the ivy. So I can do that by holding down Control and Shift. Click on the tomb, click on it again, now it'll disappear, and the rest of the things I click on are just disappearing. So I'm just clicking on parts of the tomb. There's probably more polygroups in this tomb than I needed, but I've got to try and get these thin little edges, make sure I get absolutely all of it. And I'm just left with this ivy, so I'm just holding down Control Shift and removing all the polygroups. And there's still another one down there. And I'm pretty sure that's it. And then I'm just left with this ivy, which I can press Control W, and that will polygroup everything I can see. So all of that ivy is now one polygroup, which I didn't want to do actually. So Control Z that, sorry, just leave them all as separate polygroups. I just want to split this from the rest of the model. So if I go to Subtool and go to Split, Hidden, and that's just split all of that from the tombstone. So I can hide that. I just press the I, and then all I see is my ivy. I'm going to zoom in a bit and just start to pull some of these bits about. So press B for brush, M for move, V for the move brush. I'm going to grow my brush a little bit. And you see with my move brush, if I try and pull these into the other one, it's going to kind of pull it away, which is not what we want. We want to be able to affect one polygroup at a time. So to do that, go to your brush. No. Is that the brush? Let me move that out of the way. Brush, auto masking, so where we find backface mask. And where it says mask by polygon, drag that to 100. And then when I move one polygroup, it'll only affect the first polygroup that I touch, and that way I can kind of pull some of the vines out a little bit because they're kind of intersecting, and make sure they're all kind of tucked inside. It's just where I kind of was using kind of a freehand draw of these things, and knowing that I could come back and tidy them up after. There we go. So you see there's quite a lot of them, so it will take a little while to go around. Obviously the fewer you drew, the easier time you're going to have at this point, but it's nice to have quite a lot because it looks a bit more natural. It's good to have these vines going over the top of the other vines. It helps to give it more volume when you look at it as well. I'm going to turn on this part just so I can pull the bits out which have kind of intersected with the stone. So I might bring that brush size down a bit, and this purple one never really felt wobbly enough when I was looking at it, so give it a few more kinks. Okay, I think that'll probably do. The next part is going to be, or maybe to pull these bottom ones down a little bit just so we cover to the end. But the next part is going to be to add the ivy. For the ivy, I've going to get some alphas online. Well, I say some alphas, just some images online. So I just went onto Pinterest and looked up a couple of different ivy images, which I'm going to use to generate off of this mesh. So if I go to select your grave, you can see it's got almost 5 million polygons, so we should be able to mask on it nicely and extract our meshes. So if you hold down Control, you'll get to your obviously your mask, and we'll change the alpha. Oh, let me move this again. Oh, I think I've duplicated it. Let me close one. Go to your alpha, go to import, and we can pick. Actually, I'll try and open both of them at the same time. Does that work? Yeah, so that's open both of them. You can see if I hold down Control and then load them in here, I've got the drag rect on. I can draw a mask. It's a bit blurry. So what I'll do is drop that focal shift. So I've still got Control held down, and drag your focal shift to -100. And that's a bit sharper, but it's slightly inverted. So if I hold down Control and go to Alpha up here, and just hit Invert, and then I can draw this, which is fine. That will do. So I'm going to draw a few of these around. I only need the rough shape because I'm going to pull them about with my move tool after. Probably want quite big leaves actually, so something like that. Got one over here. You can stick them underneath the vines and we can pull them forward with the move brush after. You can also do them over bends and that's fine, but try and get most of the face on a flat surface as it will be slightly better. So I'm going to stick on quite a few because I don't want to have to do this lots of times. So. Cool, might change to the other alpha now, so select IV2 and we'll invert that one. Then I can draw the shape out. Try to get them to overlap. We'll probably end up doing this twice. I made a bit of a mess of one of them there, but we can fix that later. But we'll do it twice because you don't really want to be merging two leaves together, so make sure there's a good space between them all. Okay, that'll do for batch 1. Let's have smeared this one over here, but I can fix that just by turning off the alpha. So alpha off, and I'll just hold down Control and Alt to minus, and just minus that one. And as for the rest of them, we're going to extract them from this surface. So go to, actually I might just draw a couple more with these ones just up the top here. Always good to zoom out occasionally just to make sure you're getting a good coverage. There we go. And okay, that'll do. And then go to your subtool, extract, and 0.01. Maybe 0.001 will be better. And then we'll go super thin, and then just hit extract. Then hit accept. Did that accept? Let's see. I don't think that did, but either way, I kind of want to sharpen them up a little bit first, I think. So let's just go to our masking and go to sharpen mask, and that'll just give a nice crisper edge. And that way we'll get a more solid extract. So then go back to extract, 0.01, and then press accept. And I've done it that time, so I don't think I pressed accept the first time. But if you did, you can always delete that one, and the mask is still there, so you can just extract again. So you see I've got some of the shape I didn't want in there, but I can hold down shift and smooth over these and smooth that out, and just smooth out some of the edges. I can get rid of this alpha off of the move brush, and then I'm just moving these around, so maybe a bigger brush. I think I've got backface mask on, which stops it from moving the opposite side. So if you go to move that out of the way, brush, auto masking, backface mask wasn't on. Let's just isolate it. So solo. It might be because I've got the polygroup still on. So if you go to your mask by polygroups, drag that back to 0. Because there's a polygroup either side of these, so this side is a different colour to this side, I was only moving one half, so now I can move the whole thing, which would be better. I could go to polygroups and auto groups, and that will make every individual leaf its own polygroup. You can see that here, and then I can actually keep that on because it might be useful on 100 under the mask by polygroups. And I can move the whole thing now, just one leaf at a time, because they're all separate polygroups now. I'll turn that off and start to move them around a bit. Use a smaller brush and put them around. Most of the texturing for these can be done in Painter, I guess, or we could use alphas in Zbrush, but I think we can just colour them in Painter, to be fair. I don't mind distorting them quite a way, or holding down Shift and smoothing over them a bit, just to get them a bit more shape. But I still don't really want to go very far from the surface because we need to bake this. I do want to make sure all of our leaves are in front of the twigs, or that would look odd. You can see in our reference there's quite a few more leaves than what we've got, so I will add some more, but that should be fine. Still getting a little bit of shape. Anything that's got too much shape, I'll just smooth out. I'll use a smaller brush to just maybe tighten up some of the points and a bit more of a leaf shape. Oops. Okay, it's going to be a little bit tedious, so I'll probably speed up the video. But essentially, all I'm going to do to get this finished is do this again, and then we just need to make a color ID map. So very nearly finished with this asset for ZBrush. Most of the rest of it will be done in Substance Painter. Okay, so I'll just do the second batch. So I go into here. I'll just get rid of the old mask because that mask still exists, and start to draw out some new leaves. Oops. Okay, and then the other one, which was U but inverted. Okay, that'll do for that one. Let's just go to subtool, extract, accept. It does leave a little alpha on there. I'm not sure if that's of any use. If we can go to deformation and drag the inflate down a little bit or up. Maybe not up. Size maybe? No. I think inflate. Maybe if I invert it. So zoom out, invert that mask, and try inflating it a little bit. You get a little bit of the pattern from the alpha that was on there before, making them slightly more detailed. I feel like I've got slightly crunchy edges now, but I can always continue to move them around. Again, they're all kind of multiple polygroups, so if I go to polygroups, auto groups, I can then pull them around and soften them out a little bit as well. So I've got a little bit more detail on the other ones now, which I probably should have done to the previous ones, but just showing you different shapes you can get from different methods, I guess. I could remove the old ones and just keep these ones and do it again. But don't be afraid to delete some stuff and redo it if you're not totally happy. Chances are you're not going to get exactly what you want every time, and it takes some experimenting and playing around with the tools to find the most efficient way to do whatever it is you're looking to achieve. Okay. So that's pretty decent. So as I kind of said, I wouldn't usually delete the other one. Yeah, I am going to delete the other one. Sorry, make you do that twice, but I think it's better to have the best version. So let's delete that. Which means doing it again. But practice makes perfect with these things, doesn't it? So let's just draw them out again. Get rid of any existing mask. hold down Control, and we can start to draw these out a second time. Let's change over to the other one. Cool, that's fine. So I'll just do the mesh extract again, hit accept, and then we inverted the mask and went to zoom in a bit, and went to inflate under deformation and just did it a very small amount, something like that. Cool, I can get rid of the mask. And just move these around again, similarly to last time. After I've gone to polygroups and auto groups. So although these won't give as much depth as you'd expect to see in the real world, we can use alphas as well, like transparent versions of this, to go over the top, and that will help give it a bit more body. So always layering on top of things helps give variation, and it hides the fact that you're kind of cheating some stuff. Cool. Right, I think that's probably gonna do it. Let's just do our ID map. So an ID map is essentially when we put vertex color on a thing, we can take it into Painter and say, oh, make that rock or make that metal or whatever. So we're going to do that to all our parts. So we've got our vines. If we want to see the colored version, like what our vertex colors currently look like, just click on the matte cap and go to flat color. And so currently there isn't any color really, there's just some white, and that's probably what I've got selected. So if I move the color around here, that'll be different. I'm going to pick out like a brown. There we go. And then just go to color at the top and fill object. And what that's done is it's filled up the vines here with a brown color. I'll then grab the gravestone, maybe go for white, and then color fill object. Pick the leaves, the first batch of leaves, we'll pick a green, and something like that. And color fill object, and Did that work? Oh, I think I had a mask on it. So color, fill object, select this one, probably go for a slightly darker green, not that dark, something like that maybe, and color, fill the object. Cool, so now we've vertex colored our model, I can go back to my matte cap red, and you see those colors are still kind of coming through, or I can go to a basic material, which is a bit closer to what we're going to end up with as our final baked model. And that's probably going to conclude this tutorial. In the next tutorial we're going to talk about how to export this out and then retopologize it.